detachment, acceptance, compassion, kindness towards others, but towards yourself. And because the founders of Jivamukti, they were Patabi Joyce students, so they were ashtangis. We use ujjayi breathing, we are always counting the breaths. We focus on the bandhas, we focus on the placing the drishti, the gaze.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Minerva. How are you, Minerva?
I'm very good, happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Very nice. So Minerva is a yoga teacher in Koh Phangan, specialized particularly for Jivamukti Yoga. So I'm very interested in learning more about Jivamukti. First of all, I'd like to ask you, what is your story in life?
I was born in Venezuela, in Venezuela, and near to the Amazon forests, in a little place very similar to Koh Phangan.
Wow.
In a little small hippie town. In my father's house. My mom was very into natural birth and nature and spirituality and everything of that. So I think, things that I do today come from a little bit from my childhood and my mom. And when I was 18 years old, I moved to France. My parents were separated, so my mom moved to France because she married a French guy, and I just finished like my high school, and then I moved there with her. And in France, I did my studies. I did international trade, and then I lived 1 year in Barcelona. It was the moment when I discovered Jivamukti, and I started practicing yoga in 2016. And then I came back to France, and I moved to Koh Phangan a little more than a year ago.
Very cool. So you studied international trade, but then you decided to become a yoga teacher.
Yes.
I mean, is something that just happened to you, or was a conscious decision?
It was a conscious decision. When I was actually, before I wanted to be doctor, I wanted to be surgeon. But when I went to go into my university studies, I was in France. I just finished learning French, and the process to go into med school in France, it was a little bit complicated. And I got scared because of the language and all the process. So I decided to do this international trade because I love language and I love traveling. So I said, okay, let's do that. But when I was doing my first internship in this company in Barcelona, I was doing like 8:30, 5:30 in an office in front of a computer, and I just realized that that was not for me. Being in a room in front of a computer, it was not my thing. So I finished my studies, and then I moved to Barcelona, and I discovered yoga, like Jivamukti. And I was a little bit in a personal research because I knew I didn't want to work with like in an office. So I was like asking myself the question, like, to what I want to dedicate my life, and like what are my real passions. And I always knew that being in contact with people was something for me. Like medicine, you are in service for people. And I went through a like very difficult period in that moment when I was in Barcelona. because I was looking for a job and I couldn't work there, and I didn't knew it because I thought that with the French residency I could work in Spain, but it was not the case. So I went a little bit into a depressive period, depression, and then for my sister, I knew about this Jivamukti Yoga School that was in Barcelona, and it was just behind my house. So I started going to these classes, and the first class, it was just magic, because the physical practice was very challenging, but every word that the teacher said that day like sink in me, and yeah, and it helped me a lot into this depression period, because it helped me to detach from what life should be and more into accepting and be open to what is happening and trust, you know. So yeah, so from this class I started going to practice yoga every day, and I fell in love, and for me it was clear that that's what I wanted to do after.
Yeah.
Like sharing that with people.
That's amazing. I think the yoga system is so full of treasures, you know, and particularly if you're going through a phase in life which is a little bit challenging, or as you said, you know, you are actually slipping into depression, then having, the yoga practice, it can really pull you out, lift you up, and as you said, you know, you can maybe detach yourself a little bit from the outer world when you're doing the class, and just focus on the inner world and just be in the moment, be accepting. And that allows you also, when you come out of the yoga class, to have a different perspective on reality to a certain extent, right?
Yes, and for me, like I fell in love with yoga, and I think because of Jivamukti, because I tried other kind of yoga before, and I didn't really connect with it. In France, I tried once. It was very slow, it was empty for me. And in this first Jivamukti class that I did, so we start always like chanting some mantras with harmonium. So only this chanting liberates something, like open something. And then the teacher was talking about yoga philosophy. So I will tell you, more about it, but in Jivamukti we have like this focus of the month. So every month we have a subject of yoga philosophy that we share and discuss with the students. So something that I feel that is different in Jivamukti to other styles of yoga in a class, because every yoga should like teach and transmit the philosophy, the ancient teachings, the sutras and everything. But most of the yoga styles don't do it. Like you go to a yoga class and you do some asana, sometimes you meditate, sometimes you chant Om, but it's rare. It's not always that. In Jivamukti, we want to bring like all the yoga philosophy to the physical practice, because yoga is not only the shapes, you know, like moving the asanas is much more than that. For me, yoga is like a way of living. And there is a lot of practices that serve us a lot in our daily life: detachment, acceptance, compassion, kindness towards others, but towards yourself, you know, like be patient. And that's for me what's really helped me, like from detach from my struggling situation on that moment, and just to enjoy the place where I was living, enjoying the experience I was going through, living in Barcelona, this new country, you know, like focusing more on the positive and the good of the everyday.
Yeah,
So,
what you say makes perfect sense, because, you know, we have certain life and there are some aspects of it that maybe are more pleasurable or more relaxed, more connected, and then some aspects of life that are a little bit more challenging or maybe even, you know, like difficult, right? And depending on what kind of attention you put in life, you can focus more on one aspect of life, on the other. And if you have the ability to sort of like zoom out from your day-to-day and just get more of a holistic view of what's going on in your life, and then maybe let go a little bit of the tension and the problems and the attachments. I mean, we are talking about tools that can improve life massively. And I agree with you. Like a lot of the yoga classes are focused on the asanas, the physical aspects, and it's so nice to have actually a system that brings everything in, because you said the yamas, niyamas, so you got the sort of the precepts, then you have some asana, obviously, then you have the pranayama, and then you said the meditations as well. So it reminds me of Raja Yoga as a complete system.
Exactly.
And there are very few systems like Western style sort of yoga practices that bring everything in. So that's cool. Okay, can we delve a little bit more into the Jivamukti system and see what are the elements that you bring to the class?
Okay. So Jivamukti in the physical practice is Sanata, yoga, Atta Vinyasa. We hold the asanas, but at the same time we have some linking poses, we are flowing. But most of the time we hold the asanas for 5, 8, 10, 15 breaths. It's a dynamic practice, and because the founders of Jivamukti, they were Patabi Joy's students, so they were ashtangis. So in the style of Jivamukti, in the asana practice, in the physical one, you find some similarities with the ashtanga yoga. So we use ujjayi breathing, we are always counting the breaths, we focus on the bandhas, we focus on the placing the drishti, the gaze. And we have an structure of class that in one class we have some asanas that always need to be there. Like in ashtanga, for example, there is 3 wheels that you need to do. So in Urdhva Dhanurasana, in Jivamukti you have it too, and you have other asanas that always need to be there. But you still having this space to adapt your class and focus more your class in back bends or in forward folds or in arm balancing, or you can be more creative. We practice with music. That's different from ashtanga. And we don't demonstrate. Like the teacher is not in front of the room doing the poses. We adjust a lot. In Jivamukti, we focus a lot on the adjustments during the class. So the teacher, like me, I will be going one by one in a class, line by line, adjusting each person, and then on the other side, I will come to the same person and do the other side, so right and left. And so it helps to the students to go deeper into the physical practice, and also it's easier for them to focus in their body and their practice instead of looking at the teacher and bringing the attention out. So they keep the attention in, and it also develops like the hearing, the attention. So there is 5 tenets in yoga, in Jivamukti yoga. So Jivamukti yoga is based on ahimsa, that is the practice of non-violence, not harming. In Jivamukti, we are very active in animals activism. We promote a lot veganism and vegetarianism. Actually, to become an advanced teacher in Jivamukti, the last exam you have, they ask you the question if you are vegan or not. So sometimes I have a mixed feeling with that. I can tell you about it after. But so ahimsa, not violence, shastra, that is the study of the ancient teachings. So sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and this we put it on the class with this focus of the month that we share with the students.
Yes.
So for example, this month we are talking about the practice of asteya, non-stealing.
Oh, non-stealing, yeah.
Non-stealing. So through different experience, personal experience, so share with the students how you can apply Astella in your daily life.
Yeah, because it's not just stealing, as in going into someone's house and taking the TV away, right?
Exactly.
There are going to be some more subtle ways of stealing.
Yeah,
that,
stealing time and stealing energy. You know, if I engage in a conversation with you, what is my intention behind engaging in this conversation? It's coming just from a need of attention, or because I want to exchange something, you know? So this can be an example. Dhyana, meditation, we always meditate in my classes at the end of the class or at the beginning, at least 5 minutes.
Nice.
Bhakti, sorry.
Bhakti, yeah.
Devotion, so this is through chanting mantras. In general, with the focus of the month, we have a mantra, and we are chanting this mantra during the whole month with the harmonium.
Nice.
And then we have asana, of course, the physical practice.
Okay, it makes perfect sense. I really like the fact that it brings so many elements into the class. You know, I was living in London before, and in Kensal Rise in North London, there was a Jivamukti studio, very well known, very popular in London, so I went a couple of times there. So I did experience it directly, and I did enjoy it for sure. And yeah, the whole kind of energy and atmosphere around this specific school in London was very cool. You know, I have to say that was quite, quite an advanced, cool place for practitioners. And you're talking about the Vedanta philosophy primarily, right? So that's traditional yoga philosophy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and, because yoga has become a little bit of a sport, you know.
Can be.
And everyone is free to do whatever they want, you know, and practice yoga for different reasons. But what I like to share through yoga is, finding tools to bring more balance to the different situations in life, you know, because in yoga, when you learn how to keep a steady mind and equanimity on your mind, a balanced mind when you are struggling in a very difficult asana, instead of, I cannot do it, or get frustrated, just breathing and staying in this, you know, equanimous place, when little by little you can bring that to the different experience in life. And as you were saying before, like for me, one of the things that yoga gave me is the ability of taking a step back in situations, difficult situations, see the situation from a more detached place, and then finding a solution, you know, or more acceptance into that.
I think it's really gold, you know. I've been doing yoga now for like maybe over 10 years. I actually trained Shivananda, which is a hatha yoga, but they also have 4 types of yoga there, which is bhakti, so lots of chanting as well. Then you have the karma, so the volunteering, and you have the jnana, which is the philosophy, and asana as well, and asana and pranayama. So, but it's very nice indeed, you know, that people can, you know, familiarize themselves with this practice and then make them theirs, you know. I mean, when people are into Jivamukti, then what is your what is your practice at home? I mean, do you still follow the same structure, or do you have something different that you do for yourself?
For myself, no, I practice kind of the same structure. My practice in the morning will be waking up, doing some breathing exercises, meditating, because for me it's the best moment to sit in silence. The mind is quite calm already. And my personal practice is Jivamukti style. Yeah, I like dynamic and intense practices.
Nice, nice. And for the meditation, I mean, dhyana can be interpreted in different ways. Is there any specific technique, like mantra or just focusing on the breath?
Yes. In Jivamukti, we teach mantra meditation. Like when in my classes, we use this let go mantra most of the time, like inhaling, let, exhaling, go. So you are repeating that with the breath. So you are focusing on the breath, but at the same time, with the breath, you are repeating the mantra. So you close the eyes, focus your attention on the breath, and then on the inhale, you say let. Inside you, exhale, go. Inhale, let, exhale, go. And then with practice, because it's easier to focus your attention, to focus your mind in a mantra, in a word that you are repeating in your head. It's easier than the breath, because the breath is very subtle. So if you are repeating this on your mind, it's easier to keep your mind focused there. And even like that, your mind will, start wandering, and then slowly you bring the mind again back to the mantra. And then with practice, if you can, just focus on the breath, you focus on the breath. Me, if I stopped meditating for a long time, when I came back to my meditation practice, I'm using mantras to meditate.
I'm trained in transcendental meditation, which is a mantra meditation, very similar. It's a specific mantra they give you, to you individually, but it's a very similar technique. And then I done quite a bit of vipassana, where I instead just focus on the breath. And sometimes now I mix the two, so I have the breath and the mantra at the same time, and that's another feeling, another texture of meditation, another way of experiencing it. And the beautiful thing about meditation is that when you get into it, you really enjoy it. You learn a technique, and then you learn another, then another. And then you can mix and choose, and it just comes to you naturally. Exactly. And it's such a wonderful thing. And I think, the ultimate goal of yoga is to get you into the meditation, right? I don't know if in Jivamukti is perceived differently, like the goal of yoga?
Yeah, the goal of yoga is this liberation of the soul, like samadhi, liberation, samadhi. But what that means depends, In Jivamukti, what we want is to bring consciousness and awareness to this union, the oneness of everything. Yoga, because yoga means union with what? With the whole, with everything, with other beings, with your inner essence, with everything. And how can you translate that? For me, yoga is just a way to bring more union between people and between the environment around you, so with nature, being aware how you treat nature, what you take, if you take more than what you can give. Just for me, yoga is like to improve and get all the different relationships better and better and better. Not only with people, but also with animals, with nature, with yourself, to be more kind, more acceptance, less judgment. So for me, is bringing more acceptance and tolerance in us, towards ourselves and everything around us, and also creating a space for others to be,
Yeah, I think balance, there's a concept in medical science is homeostasis. Homeostasis is when all the systems in the body are in balance, you feel perfectly healthy. And if we can have more balance and harmony within ourselves, not having so many negative thoughts and obsessions, and also, that can reflect outside as well, so better relationship with others, with your partner. That's a very worthy goal in life, possibly. One of the main aims in life is to find this balance, and that's what yoga promotes.
And exactly, like all the different practices in yoga, like meditation, pranayama, physical practice, all these practices are to purify a little bit the body, on a physical way, and also the mind. Yeah. To release all the toxicity, everything that it hold us back. And because the more you feel good in yourself, with yourself, you will just share that very easily around you.
Naturally, right? Almost without even thinking.
Yeah. And meditation, yeah, of course, is a reflection of the progression in our yoga practice, because the more we are balanced, the more easy it will be to fall into that meditative state, just to be good, being sitting in silence.
Do you feel like going over the ahimsa sort of moral precept a little bit more? So ahimsa is non-violence, which means non-violence to other human beings, non-violence to yourself, and also non-violence to animals potentially, right? What is your interpretation of it?
My interpretation of ahimsa is to be kind with others, not with violence, of course. And it can go in as far as any person wants or feel it, right? So me, when I was vegan for 6 years, almost 7 years, and for me it had a lot of meaning, like it was obvious for me when I started like my yoga journey. I was very concerned with the environment and everything, so I changed like my diet, and not only my diet, then I would come to clothes, to everything that I was buying, and so for animals, right? And then for the first years, I was very into that, very active, sharing a lot of information about it. And I didn't understand how people couldn't see what I was seeing, like it's obvious that it's not right, that there is a lot of beings suffering because of that. And it's true. And I wanted people to see that. But just a year before that, myself, I was not able to see it that way, So, so I came to, then I just keep like my diet, my veganism, and I started like going down with this intensity of being vegan. And I was not talking much about it. When people asked me, I didn't want to engage too much into those conversations, because most of the time, if people are not agree with you, it's like conversations that don't go anywhere. When two people are on in their ideas and not open to,
conversations. There's a little dogmatism that comes with it as well, a very strict position on one ideology, and you don't want to hear anybody, and it's difficult to communicate with others that are on the opposite side. Right?
Exactly, and it's from both sides, right? So because me, I was convinced that I was doing the right thing. And then I start seeing how, because in Jivamukti we talk a lot about it, and most of the time this focus of the months, some teachers that are very, very into that, they bring everything to veganism. And I start noticing that these kind of talks, Dharma talks about veganism, was making some people feel guilty, They were bringing a little bit of guilt into people that were not vegan, So then at some point I just realized that this is not ahimsa anymore, This is not non-violence and kindness. Like making some people feel guilty because they are not doing what you think is right. That's not ahimsa, that's not yoga, that's not union. You are creating separation instead of union, So today, ahimsa for me it means respect, of the others. And something that I came to understand even better today is that we are so different, and one situation, one thing can be so different for you and for me. Like now we are living this same situation, this same reality, let's say, but you will see it or feel it in a very different way than for me, you know? So what is right for me might not be right for you, and I need to respect that, you know? So yeah, for me, ahimsa is more about respecting others and keeping in mind that the different perspective that yeah.
I really like the way you put it, you know. I think what I like to add to it is that if you have certain beliefs and certain values and you feel strongly about them, a way to incorporate the yoga system into that is that you can be very, you know, very honest and very following this precept yourself, but when it comes to other people, you can of course talk about it, but I wouldn't maybe be dogmatic about it or be ideological about it or categorize people as being vegan equal good, being non-vegan equal bad. And not just veganism in general. I think any kind of ideology that is held with absolute certainty, you know, that is people swear by it and there's nothing else but their ideology, contains a form of violence on others in a way and is not balanced, you know. Yeah. So I think the idea that we have different views in life, that reality is perceived differently, that, you know, ideologies and values change and develop throughout history and throughout our personal lives as well, makes it logical to think that imposing on others any kind of absolute dogma is possibly wrong, right?
Yes, completely.
So yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, I like the way you explained it, you know, the way how you really, you know, went into it for years and years, and then, you know, your logical process of coming out on the other end. Yeah. And are you still vegan or you're like flexitarian now?
No, yeah. Okay. I mean, I still not eating meat, but I eat eggs, cheese, and everything that started when I arrived here in Thailand. Okay. Before that, no, I was still vegan and very close about my idea, not pushing my idea into others anymore, because I did that maybe the 2 first years, then I relaxed. But yeah, is that, it's like this dogma, you know, like this thinking that there is an absolutely true, I'm not into that anymore, into, you know, like closing myself in one thing, because then you stop growing, you stop, you know, you close yourself to other possibilities and to other things. And yes, that's what I wanted to say, that as you say, that we change our ideas and ourselves, our perception change in one person, like you, me, we will change into our whole life, so everything.
And society as well, right?
Exactly.
And different, I mean, society in Saudi Arabia, in Venezuela, in Italy, or in Koh Phangan has slightly different values, different ideas. They evolve all the time. And when somebody has absolute certainties, I always see, you know, how can you be so certain when so many things in life are mysterious in nature, you know? Our own birth and death is a mystery of sorts, right? So I also like to have more of a relative approach to things and just feel them in the moment, and having my own value system, because I need some identification, so I need some guidance in how I show up in life, but they're not absolute for sure. Yeah.
And it's good to share it with others, to talk about it, but from a place of love, you know, and goodness and kindness. That's the intention behind it. If you want to push people to the same as you, that's not the idea. To share, yes, be open, you know, like a kid will learn easier, will do something easier if you ask him with love, like in a nice way. If you do it like arguing and screaming, he will just close and he will want to do the opposite, you know, or hide.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for sharing this. I'd like to ask you one more question, which is, you know, there are beautiful islands all over the world and amazing countries that you can visit and live in. But you still in Koh Phangan, very much established here, teaching, etc. Why do you love Koh Phangan so much?
The lightness of Koh Phangan, it reminds me a lot of my home country. I grew up in a place similar like this, that Koh Phangan. And the easy life, the slow life, you know, being able to, like the openness, because people here like can just express without, well, I will say, yeah, in general, without that feeling of being judged. It's more openness. Nature. I love nature, and I love, yeah, to be able to wake up in the morning, do my practices, take my breakfast, teach yoga, and then go to a waterfall, spend some time in nature, and then come back and work. That's what I love of this place mostly, like that I can share what I want to share with people through yoga, and it's well received, and the connection between the people, like it's a very small place, so it's easy to connect with people, and yeah, the vibe, the energy here is special.
Cool. So what are your projects here? Like you're teaching, where do you teach at the moment?
I teach in Orion, I teach in Samakaruna, and I teach in this new studio that it's called Bells Studio.
Where is it?
It's in Siritanu, before the second 7-Eleven, close to the sushi place.
Yeah.
Sushina. There,
Okay.
like close to Nikki Nails.
So
you know.
that's nice. That's a new space as well.
Yeah.
But you're certainly very active here, so you know that's great. And well, look forward to seeing you around on the island. Thank you very much for coming to Chalaklam today. And
Thank you.
Kapun Kap.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you.
Thank you.